Yo, um, this is the video where I'm gonna just go through the honor talents and try and explain what each of them's for, why they're good, why they're bad, what they'll be good for, that sort of thing, so that you can make your own choice when you go into arena. You see what comp you're against, and you're like, okay, I need these things to deal with this comp, because that's a lot of what Priest is about now. You've got so many different things that are useful in so many situations, and you just need to know when to use what. That's a huge part of it. If you choose the wrong things, you're just going to feel like a fucking salmon flopping around, useless, and everyone's going to be like, oh my god, this underpowered, cry, cry, cry. You can't spam saving grace anymore, it's over, get over it. So, first tier, we've got Gladiator's Medallion, Adaptation, and Relentless. And I quite like what Blizzard's done with this, right? You get a bit more choice. It's different to the boring old 2-minute PvP trinket, which is still here if you want it. It's good against a lot of stuff. Pretty much your core thing, I'd say. And then you want to switch that out against certain stuff. I'd say the biggest one is against cleaves. You want to run that because that is going to keep you out of the most stuff in general. It's going to give you the most time casting. And the more you can cast, the more likely you are to survive. So yeah, this one I'd say is solid against cleaves. It's a good choice. This one is more interesting, I'd say. Any CC that hits you that's got a duration that's longer than 5 seconds is going to instantly proc your PvP trinket and put a 60-second cooldown on. So there's going to be certain comps that rely on large CC chains that don't really have the potential to swap on you. And this is going to be very good for that. I'm trying to think of what something would be good. Maybe like Mage Lock Shaman or something like that. This would be pretty good. The thing I'm concerned about, which I haven't tested yet, but could be an issue, is say you get hit by a poly and you death it. This thing is still going to proc, so that's something to be aware of. So maybe it's not great against mages, but certainly other kind of CC teams. You want to be careful using this against rogues because they can full kidney you and it's going to proc, and then the next CC that hits you is going to be full and you're not going to be able to get out of it. So that's something to think about as well. People are going to try and bait this off you if they know you're using it. So yeah, that's those three talents just generally explained. Right, we've got second tier, Defender of the Weak, Vim and Vigor, and Inner Renewal. Now, generally, I would say go for Vim and Vigor. 20% healing is pretty solid, and it's if teams aren't going for you, any team that doesn't go for you, you should be using this. Just keep yourself topped. Now, spread pressure teams that are going to be like dotting you and just trying to rot your whole team down, you want to run this one because you're not going to be able to comfortably keep yourself over 80, and people are going to be dropping under 50 all the time, and that's a PI for free pretty much. 20% haste is nothing to sniff at. So yeah, Warlock teams, or just general rot teams, boomkins, all that kind of shit, this is going to be solid. You also want to run this against cleaves, particularly cleaves that dispel spam you and train you, because you're not going to be staying over 80. So you're going to want this thing. When you pop below 50, you get some haste, you cast more spells, you got less chance of getting interrupted because your spells are faster cast. It's just generally good stuff. And then this one is going to need some more testing. I'm not sure how well tanking cleaves goes. I guess it's going to depend on what comp you're playing. And this one I think is going to come down to a lot of personal preference. If you can actually survive a cleave and the game goes long and they're training you for ages, you're eventually going to go and that's when this thing is going to be good. If you find you can tank something and to the point where you go then you may want to start taking this. But until then, I'd say stick with these two. Third tier, we got Purification, Spiritual Cleansing, and Purified Resolve. Now, Purification's pretty standard. You want to run that against most stuff. that has more than one kind of CC available. So like any kind of mage teams, lock teams, maybe even boomkin teams, because it's kind of nice to remove their dots. Just anything you think you're going to be needing to dispel more than once. Like, you got a brain, you can use it and figure that shit out. It's what you're thinking about in the starting area. You shouldn't be like chatting about fucking what you had for breakfast. You should be thinking, yo, I've got 45 seconds, what talents do I need? And that's just going to get you in the zone as well. Just make you more focused for the game, so you'll have more chance of winning, which is good. We've got Spiritual Cleansing. That is, in my opinion, shit. Maybe there's some uses for it that I haven't seen yet, but I am not a fan of this. It's just going to mean you're dispelling so much of the time because you're just going to have to spam it. And I think anything that has a lot of CC that you need to continuously remove, this is plenty anyway. It's actually buffed from last expansion where it was like 2 dispels, but the cooldown is 12 seconds. Now it's just 8 seconds recharge to 2 charges. So it's fucking good. And then finally we got Purified Resolve, which I think is really, really good for any kind of team that has debuffs, but not like a significant amount of CC that you're going to need to remove. Like, that's so cool for like tanking DKs and stuff. Just pop in a dispel every 8 seconds when you've got nothing else to do. It's an 8% shield. That's solid, that is. So yeah, don't forget about this. It's tempting to, because this is just nice to have, but this is actually really good. Fourth tier, we got Searing Light, Premonition, and Solemn Prayers. Searing Light, I think, is going to be more of a 2v2 talent than a 3v3 talent. Maybe a little bit more BG oriented as well. In threes, you're going to want Death a lot of the time. This is Death, by the way. And you're going to want this a fair amount of the time as well. Against Cleaves, this is really good. If you get pummeled, it's not so impactful. Like, you can get pummeled on one school and then be like, okay, I'm going to cast my other school, you know, penance yourself or whatever. And then by the time you've cast like 1 or 2 spells, you're gonna have your original school back up again and feel pretty cool about yourself. So yeah, this is good against Cleaves for sure. I'd say it's also pretty good against Shadow Priest comps because it reduces their silence by 25% and it kind of makes it not like scary. I'm not sure if this works on silence as well. I'm tempted to say yes, but I'm not 100% sure on that. But yeah, I'll have a text guide in the description, so I'll keep that updated with any new shit that comes out or new meta changes or whatever. So feel free to keep an eye on that. It's probably easier than listening to this video over and over again. But yeah, Searing Light is I'd take that for BGs definitely. For a fair amount of 2 setups. There's going to be some comps you're going to want Death against. Probably not this in 2s. But yeah, 3s I'd say this and this are your go-to things. If you're really brave, you can run that, but it depends on how much you can actually get time to nuke and what you're against, of course. 5th tier, we got Strength of Soul, Renewed Hope, and Dome of Light. Strength of Soul on the surface looks amazing, but when you think about it, that shield is coming off insta. When you're getting chopped by 2 melee, which is what you would use this against, that do a lot of fizz damage, so like, I don't know, Warrior and Monk or some shit, you're gonna get your shield removed like unbelievably quickly, so that 30% is not actually going to be up a lot. And it's nice when it is, it's nice with Rapture, that sort of thing, but also this is nice with Rapture, because you're spamming shields for a 62k heal as well every time. And I'd say overall that's going to be more throughput, like you're going to keep more health doing that than with this. You also need to bear in mind that a lot of these melee classes have a component of their damage, sometimes fairly high, that isn't actually physical. So like Demon Hunters, when they burst, a lot of their damage is chaos damage. DKs, a lot of their damage is disease, shadow, whatever. So there's only a couple of classes where the damage is actually fizz, and in that case, if you are tanking a cleave, I'd say go for this. I think you've got so little mobility now. You've got 40% feather to get away. It's not enough, especially when you're slowed. You've got nothing else, so you're just gonna have to submit to the fact that you're gonna be getting dicked for a bit. And the idea, I'd say, is to get people off with pressure and peels rather than just kiting away. So you want to be able to tank people for a bit, and that means you're going to be passive and static. You're not going to be running around, and that means this is really good. So you're going to have a 2-minute barrier with this, and it's going to be 50% damage reduction. Now compare that to PS, which is when you have your artifact talents, 3.5-minute cooldown, 40% damage reduction for 8 seconds. So this is like the new PS sort of thing for melee cleaves. Now on top of that, you've got a artifact talent, which once taken, it increases the atonement healing on people in barrier by 100%. So what you can do is you can pop this, and then you can pop fiend, and you can try and heal up and whatnot. And if you do happen to get kicked on something, or you have no chance of casting or whatever, and you're a decent HP, you can start like throwing a few dots around. If you've got no instance up, obviously you prio your heals first. But if you don't feel like you can get casts off, having dots around, or having dots around up in the first place before they even get on you, which is probably the better choice, you're going to get a lot of passive healing when you barrier. So if you predict your barrier fiend like on one of their stuns, it's going to negate that completely, and you're just going to come out of it at a really safe HP. As long as you remember, you got fade as well now, but I'll go into that in another video. So yeah, this is solid for tanking cleaves. This solid choice for pretty much everything else. This I'd say is a little bit weak, just based on how fast the shield comes off. I'd like to see this be like when you power word shield, you get fizz damage reduction for like 3 seconds or something. Just because of how fast shield can get purged off and just removed from damage. It's insane right now. So yeah, that's that tier. And then the last tier is really a 2-choice tier. I wouldn't say Power Word Fortitude is a good choice in any situation. I think it's really, really weak compared to the other two. And on top of that, you can dispel it as well. So yeah, wouldn't be going for that. Your main 2 choices here are Archangel or Dark Archangel. And this is basically how much can you get away with not healing. This is such a good healing cooldown. It's 1-minute cooldown, it refreshes your atonements, and it increases your healing by 30% for 15 seconds. Like, that is so good for picking people up, it's unreal. And it's needed against a lot of stuff. Now, the idea is to find the stuff that you don't need it against, and you can get away with not running this against without falling behind. Because if you fall behind as disc, it's really, really hard to get back. And that's where this comes in handy. But if you don't have this, you're going to really struggle to pick your team back up, and they're going to have to play defensive, which is not what you want, especially if you're playing something like RMP. But if you can avoid that, and you can run this and stay offensive, this is absolutely insane. If you synergize this with your team's burst cooldowns, they're going to one-shot something. It's going to be crazy. And that is going to synergize so well with a lot of comps. And people will probably bring a Disc Priest just for this. So yeah, when you can run this, run it, but don't get too cocky, you know, because you will just lose sometimes if you don't have enough healing. So yeah, boom, 1 take. That's everything. I'll do an artifact talent bid in a bit. Hope this was helpful. If you've got any kind of info that I haven't said, or things you think I've missed out or forgotten or whatever, or stuff you just like to hear, just let me know in the comments. Blah blah blah, you know the drill. I'll see you later.